I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Excuse me. Hopefully you're doing well. Welcome to another Office Hours live stream, and hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear. I didn't neglected to do a sound check on my mic plugins and everything like that, but hopefully all is well. I noticed last week's stream, I was listening back to it to try and cut some videos out of it, and the audio would kind of clip in, clip out a little bit, and I realized it was because I was kind of talking like, you know, this mic, for whatever reason, you could be right up on it. It's so different than my last mic. So anyway, welcome. Hopefully you're doing well. Let's see who all is here. I did see Ghost Planet Max Inc. was in here first. Good to see you there. You were talking about the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the animated film. And some of the nonsense they pulled there. Yeah, the DC has this absolutely infuriating habit. And I don't know if they're doing this on purpose or if it's just their sheer stupidity, because never, ever underestimate the stupidity of Warner Brothers executives. They do not know what they have. They don't know how it should be run. They are just forever throwing crap at the wall and praying something sticks. But they have this infuriating habit of pretending to give fans what they want, but refusing to undo the crap that they've done already. So they just take this thing you said you wanted and they plant it in the middle of their crap, and they're like, "See, aren't you happy?" You know, I mean, when they brought Michael Keaton back as Batman, how long have we been begging for Michael Keaton to return as Batman? Well, let's bring him back. Well, aren't you happy? I mean, he's in the Ezra Miller Flash movie, but why didn't you guys go see that? Why didn't you guys make that be more successful and more? Because it's in the freaking Ezra Miller Flash movie, you idiots. And they did this, drive me crazy. Of course, we'd been wanting a real, true to the comics birth and death, or death and resurrection of Superman, you know, story. Of course we want that. We'll give you that, but we're going to put it in the DC bull crap New 52 continuity that we've been doing all of our animes. So you have to see Superman flying around in his stupid little, belt with no trunks and everything. It's dumb. And they did that same thing with the Crisis movie. Oh, we're giving you all these great. Oh, look, here's the Hush movie. Here's all this. No, it's garbage. You're not even sticking true to the stories. And if you even do, you're still trying to shove them in to this nonsense that you're doing now. They refuse to admit that they have to stop, undo all the garbage they've done, and then give the fans what they want. Oh, no. Bull ahead, full speed ahead. That's Warner Brothers, nonsense philosophy. And look what it's gotten them. So anyway. Got me on a soapbox right off the bat there, Ghost Planet Max Inc. Didn't even finish welcoming people. Good to see you, Nathaniel Zalozball. Electric Barbarella, great to see you. You guys were chatting for a while here. Ace Moick, great to see you there. Andre Hernandez, welcome. Leia Plus Size, Final Fantasy fan, Big Al Presents. Good to see you there. Of course, my dear Sound Engraver is with us. Awesome to see everybody. Private Eye in Retrospectiva, and so many more. So many more. I could just sit here all night and welcoming people, but we get to talk in a little bit here. So Yeah, let me make sure I'm down here at the end of the chats. Okay, good. Sorry, guys. My throat's a little messed up. I don't have allergies or something. I don't have a cold or anything, but I'm going to try not to hack into the mic as much as possible tonight. The thumbnail I had for tonight was I don't know if you guys recognize it. Of course, that's a great artistic piece. It's by Goya, and it's called what the name of the stream is. The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters, and that's just sort of a zeroed in, closed in scene of it. You can look up the title on Google, and you'll see the whole picture. But the art appreciation, art interpreters or whatever have looked at it and have some different ideas about exactly what he was saying. But obviously, the title, he's talking about something particular. The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters, and it struck me that was a really great title, a really great comment or commentary on some of the things that have been going on this past week, because I encountered this nonsense in terms of ideologies when it comes to popular American mythology or whatever, or things that are going on or whatever. I've encountered it twice in two places this week. So we'll talk about, both of those places and see what you guys have to say and, see how far we go tonight. But the one place, last Saturday we had the live stream, and it was it the day of Donald Trump's, the attempted assassination on Donald? I think it was the day of. Was it Saturday or was it Friday or something like that? I forget. But, it was very, very soon, very close to the actual event. And we talked about it a little bit and talked about some of the nonsense and everything that was already being said, the ideologues in the media, or the ideologue run media, is still desperately trying to get their narrative straight. What are we, where we go from here? At first, it was trying to play it down. It was no big deal. And then I guess they figured out, well, I guess we've got to denounce it. So, they begrudgingly denounced it, tried to tie it to January 6th and pretend that, see, it's all the same thing, which it's not. But I did that stream, and I mentioned, I made a point on the stream. I made a point of people that I've heard, in my own family and in life, and just, lamenting the fact that, oh, Trump supporters, they're just so cult-like. They're such a cult, and I talked about, I made the point, and I even cut it out as its own video. Are you kidding me? If we're going to talk about cult-like behavior, let's look at Obama's supporters back in the day. And I'm not talking about, I made the point too, and I'll make it again, I'm not talking about just somebody who might have leftist-leaning politics or just might consider themselves a Democrat or whatever. I'm talking about ideologues who allow the ideology to seep in and overtake everything they do. And you would be surprised, because that's pretty much it's just a fact, right? I mean, whether you like Trump or like Obama or hate Obama, that's just a fact that the nation went crazy during the Obama election. It was disgusting to see that level of straight up worship of a human being. That's not healthy, no matter what your politics are and no matter what the candidate is we're talking about. And you would be surprised at the pushback I got from that. I still got pushback. I still had people saying, no, well, I've searched YouTube and I don't know. I think Trump's more cult-like in his followers. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding? Stop it. I did have one person, which I appreciated, who said, look, I don't like Trump. I'm actually an Obama supporter. But yeah, that was crazy. That should not have happened, or something to the effect. And you're right. You're absolutely right. It's just, it's absurd and it's obscene. But see, this, I'll show you and then I'll make my point about it. I've got, I had to look up, and it was actually hard to find because they don't really want it out there. But there was a, put this here, share audio. Okay, good. There, you guys might remember this whole celebrities were getting together and doing the most ridiculous videos and ad campaigns and commercials, trying to, assert all of their influence. We're Hollywood and we're telling you what to do. And, this was one of the videos they did, just trying to make sure everybody pledges their support to our president. That's like something you would see in a dictatorship, or communism or something like that. The idea that we need all of our celebrities to get together and try to encourage. We need to make sure everybody pledges support to this president. No, that's obscene. And I'm just going to show you a couple of. It was this long pledge, and you might watch the whole thing, and some of the things are couched into things that are, hey, I pledge to, help the elderly. I pledge to do this. I pledge, some of the things these celebs are pledging, are fine, but it's all contextualized into because we will follow and trust Obama. That's what it's there for. I'll show you just a couple of clips. This is Anthony Kiedis' idiotic self. This was his little bit from it here. Let's see.
To be of service to Barack Obama.
Are you kidding me?
Pledge
to change.
First of all, to name parts of your body after a leader is kind of idiot. I know he's not really named, but that's the gist. That's the joke. I'm naming this bicep, Barack. I'm naming it, and then to kiss them is almost like this religious, what? The other one I'll show you. You can go through and watch the whole thing on your own. You can do a little searching and find it. But the last part, Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore, they really sum it up here at the end. And I'll show you here. Let's see, I'll start a second or two before then, just so you can get the whole thing.
I pledge to be a servant to our president
and all mankind,
because together we can. Together we.
I pledge to be a servant to our president. Tell me again that Trump's followers are a cult. Go ahead, try it. You can tell me all you want that he won't be a good president or you don't like his policies or whatever. These are logical discussions and logical arguments. But this is an example of just a simple fact. Okay, that Obama supporters are the Fuhrer. I don't want you to say Obama supporters because there might be people that support him as a president that don't necessarily, worship him. But that was way more cult-like than anything anybody has a right of accusing Donald Trump's followers about. But if you're more than just an Obama supporter and somebody who doesn't like Trump, if you're more than that, and if you're an ideologue, if you're somebody who has swallowed this whole Trump is Hitler, Obama was our Lord and Savior. If you just swallow that ideology and we must push the new world order into the world, if you've swallowed that ideology, then a truth like the fact that Obama inspired way more cult-like behavior and worship than Donald Trump ever did, that's just a truth. It's a fact. You can't even argue it, okay? And if you're not an ideologue, if you just happen to like Obama and don't like Trump, then that truth, that fact shouldn't threaten your opinions or your ideas. And, one or two people it didn't. But oh my gosh, so many people out there today, these are the idiots who are going around saying that, well, it was obviously a staged assassination attempt. They did all this just to try to, drum up support for him. What? Or the people who think it's perfectly okay to joke that he should have been killed for some way. Yeah, and there are plenty of people like that, and there are a lot more people like that than who are vocalizing that. I guarantee it. But it's, at least in this moment, thankfully, it's been, sort of asserted that that's not going to fly in our mainstream culture right now. You don't get to say that, But the ideologues, they can't accept a truth, a fact that they can't somehow use to the betterment of their agenda, of their narrative. They can't accept that. They won't do it. And that's the danger of ideology. That's the danger of ideology and culture, because it takes people who are, on the one hand, pretty smart, right? Some people can be very smart. You can be intelligent or you can be talented, right? And in comics and in movies and in books and everything, we always talk about and we lament the fact that certain creators, writers, directors, or whatever, who've given us such amazingly iconic, wonderful, true, good art, stories in the past, have suddenly just, Trump derangement syndrome took place, and all Mark Wade can write about now is how much he hates Trump, and stuff like that, those kinds of You know, whether you're talented or whether you're intelligent, ideologies sink in and they absolutely just short circuit all of that. They short circuit any, inspiration your brain would get from your talent or intelligence, and everything is in service to the ideology. Everything you do, everything you think, everything has to be in service to the ideology. And we are seeing that far more in, I'm not saying that everybody on the left is like this and nobody on the right is like this, but I think it's pretty much just a fact that we're seeing that far more on the left these days. Because a lot of the people, and I'm not talking about like people in the media who are really kind of making a career out of endorsing Trump or anything, or just really kind of going at that hard. I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about people who voted and really put him in the office the first time. These were people who were sick of being called idiots just because they didn't share the politics of Hollywood. These were people who, were tired of Hollywood constantly condescending to us, celebrities, just assuming that you have to believe in this, you have to believe in that, or, well, I mean, you're either ignorant or you're evil or you agree with us, people were sick of it. And so I think Trump galvanized a lot of people who normally wouldn't have even voted at all, but were tired of being treated like that. So came out for the vote. And honestly, with the way that the mainstream media is handling all of this stuff with the attempted assassination, it looks like it's going to happen again, which I'm happy about. But that's these dangers of ideologies. They just short circuit any intelligence, any talent. And the other place I saw that this week was, I mentioned last week that I've been doing a lot of study into prepping for what my channel is going to be Halloween content wise, which I'm going to start hopefully this week. I've been really, delving, looking up my old notes and writing some new notes and really delving into the study of Frankenstein and Dracula. I might get into Werewolf of Paris if I have time, because I'm just having so much fun doing it. But I really wanted to go a lot deeper in terms of the scholarship on the original books, but also their influence and presence in culture since then. I really wanted to go a lot deeper into that this year on my channel than I have in previous years. So I've been doing a lot of study, and I started with Frankenstein, and I was reading, studying up, digging out my old notes from grad school and everything, and just, really delving into it more, making a lot of new notes. So I think you've ever seen my big notebook that I've got now. And if you don't know much about Frankenstein or the text, there were some, Mary Shelley made a lot of revisions to the text after even she put it out and published it. It's come down to kind of two main versions or main editions. If you look into the textuality of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or A Modern Prometheus, as the tagline was originally, she put out the first version in, I think it was, numbers 1818. Okay. That was her first published edition. And then by 1831, Percy had passed on then, and this was her last edition that she revised it up. And for a long time, people generally accepted the 1831 edition, the most recent one, as that was the standard definition. That was the go-to edition, because that was the one that she had, had the most time to work on and had the most time to revise and really, polish it up. And thematically, it works better. There are all these reasons why 1831's edition is just the superior edition, still by Mary Shelley. But then you have these people, primarily in the late 20th century and recently, who are trying to argue that no, the 1818 edition, that one needs to be the best one. That one's the one that we should all stick to. And the reason is because ideology. So I'll explain this, and then I'll get back to the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and show you how this is coming to fruition here. When it comes to academic critical theory, so academic scholarship about the humanities, the study of literature or art, that kind of stuff, or film or whatever. There's no such thing as higher studies in literature studies or film studies or whatever in the colleges today. There's not. I loved literature. I wanted to be a PhD in literature just because I wanted to study at the highest level I could literature that I love so much. I wanted to delve into it, to learn more about it, And I went into a master's program in English, and got my master's. I completed my master's program. But one of the things I learned in that master's program is that there's no such thing even in the master's program, I was having to fight and do all of this, work on my own to really kind of study the literature. Because what higher academia, what higher studies do today when it comes to the humanities is they don't study the literature. They don't study the art or the film or whatever. They don't care about that. All they care about is a political agenda. And the literature, the art, the film, any of that is there only to be a tool to further a political agenda. That's what the history of scholarship, academic scholarship is. Once, the first thing you do when you come into like a, for example, a literature, master's or master's/PhD program or whatever, the first thing you do is they teach you the history of scholarship, the history of critical theory. And they lament the old days in which, in the 40s, and they were just studying, the lives of the authors and the context of the book and the things they were trying to say in the book, and that's just so, like, are you kidding me? That's what scholarship should be. And so they say, literary theory was or critical theory was eventually developed, and the first critical theories are useful, right? Reader response, for example. Let's not just focus totally on what the author wanted to say. Let's look at what readers get from the work, because that's more prominent in culture than necessarily just what the author wanted to say at any given time. Screen was frozen there. And then there, what I really liked was psychoanalytic theory that developed, which came out of like Freud and Jung. And it wasn't so much, the trying to be the practice of Freudian or Jungian actual psychoanalysis, but it was taking a lot of the themes and the approaches of psychoanalysis and applying it to literature, as Freud and Jung both did when they were developing their, looking at mythology and so forth. And this is where the hero's journey comes from. It's this tradition, because Joseph Campbell was a student of Jung and so on. And that's an incredibly useful, theory, critical theory, if you want. But modern day academics hate that. Oh, you're a psychoanalyst. No one's going to take you seriously. If you want to be taken seriously in modern academia, you have to be, and you have to really like subscribe to one of these theories. You have to legitimately just like wholeheartedly sink your teeth in and be an acolyte of one of these theories. Primarily, it's going to be feminist theory, or maybe you can say gender studies if you want to try and, but there's a fight right there still raging on between feminist theorists and queer theorists who want to kind of blend or just make it gender studies in general. The feminists are like, no, you pay attention to the women, and stuff. So there's that. There's Marxist theory, which is exactly what you think it is. There's post-colonial theory, which is very tied into Marxist theory, but it's the idea of, oh, America's so evil, Britain's so evil, look at what they did to these, countries and so forth. And these are the theories out there. If you're not writing and publishing and studying literature according to one of these theories, you don't get a job. You just don't, you don't work, because that's what higher academia in literature and art and so forth is all about. It's all about using it as a tool to further their political agenda. There's no such thing as actually truly scholarly studying the literature at a higher academic level anymore. That just doesn't happen. And I saw that and knew that was the case. And I was like, well, crap, what do I do? Because I wanted to study literature more. I wanted to teach literature, and I eventually decided after my master's in English to go get an MFA, Master's of Fine Arts, in creative writing, which is the highest. It's a terminal degree in the creative writing, the study of how to write creatively. There's PhDs in writing, but they're more, again, into the ideology, and they're not so much about teaching you or trying to write creatively. It's like, let's look at the creative writing. It's a different, it's a slight, but important distinction. So I did the MFA in creative writing, and that's, I started teaching from there. Now I'm going to give you an example here. Like, let's go back to the Mary Shelley's editions, like I said, okay? The 1818 edition, all of the feminist theorists, all of these people now are trying to say that, oh, that earlier edition, that's the one that we should be going to. That's so much, that's pure and whatnot. And I want to show you their reasoning. This is going over and over again. This is a page from Arizona State University. Okay, so this is just a little blurb about editions. In total, there are 5 significant versions. She does various different revisions, but again, we boil that down to the 1818 or the 1831. Theme in the 1818 edition, the earlier one: humans have free will, and there's hope for loving egalitarian family unit. The 1831 edition the later edition, that relegates human action to fate, and the egalitarian family unit is significantly undercut. Why? Possibly biographical explanation, blah, 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 blah. All right, here are the actual changes. So that's a bunch of fluffy talk. Let's find out the actual changes in the edition. For one, I won't read the top ones there. The top ones are about, Victor Frankenstein talks about fate and how it was like fate driving him to the study and to the, studies that have him create the monster. And the feminist theorists don't like that because that lessens the culpability of this evil man, who's mistreating, a woman, and some various reasons they don't like that. And we'll come back to that in a second. And the second reason is that Elizabeth, Victor Frankenstein's love interest, in the earliest edition, in the 1818 edition, she was his cousin that they adopted when the two were children. And, and then he eventually marries her. And that's obviously weird to us, but even back then it was, marrying cousins. That was kind of it was done, it wasn't, as scandalous it is today. Well, by 1831, Mary Shelley changed that, and Elizabeth wasn't his cousin. She was an adopted orphan that his family found, and they brought her in, and raised her and stuff. So her and Victor, raised together, and eventually they want to get married. Not, blood relation at the very least. But that's not so much what they don't like about it. What they don't like about it is this little addition right here. This is the addition to the 1831. The addition to the 1831 edition. On the evening previous to her being brought to my home, my mother had said playfully, "I have a pretty present for you, my Victor. Tomorrow he shall have it." And when on the morrow she presented Elizabeth to me as her promised gift, I, with childish seriousness, interpreted her words literally and looked upon Elizabeth as mine to protect, love, and cherish. All praises bestowed on her are received as made to a possession of my own. Now you can just see how that's going to get feminist theorists' panties all in a twist. And this is what this scholar says, this Elizabeth Lavenza scholar. In the 1818 edition, Elizabeth is a blood cousin adopted by Caroline. She is educated with Victor, and she is empowered enough to criticize her uncle's plans for Ernest and denounce the vengeful retribution of law courts. In the 1831 edition, Elizabeth is an orphan who becomes a prototype of the Victorian angel in the house. In the 1831 edition, her voice against the patriarchy is silenced. She also becomes the property of Victor. Now, that reason right there, that might be a reason for you personally to prefer the 1831 edition over the 1818 edition. Quite honestly, it's a reason for me to prefer the last edition and not. But that's personal preference. That's 100% personal preference. And it's being presented here as though this is reason to curb and influence our academic study. This woman, this Elizabeth Lavenza here, she doesn't like that Elizabeth wasn't given more agency and blah, blah, blah. The writer didn't write her book here the way I want her to write it, the way I want the world to be. Therefore, we need to turn our back on that edition and go look at this one edition. This is absurd reasoning. And this is the reasoning you're going to get more from women scholars, just to be honest and quite blatantly honest, than you will from male scholars, although there are plenty of male feminists, who have traded in their nuts for, and brains for this ideology. But if you wanted to make the argument that we should accept the earlier edition over the later edition, and if you wanted to use this little blurb right here, this little difference in how Elizabeth's treated in the book, then you would actually have to reason. You would have to say, okay, this doesn't really fit the themes of the book as well. This doesn't really, give me some reasons that are 100% exclusive to the work itself and not to your worldview, not to your social agenda. And that's what feminist theory is. That's why feminist theory is the most basic, plateaued, like level 1 way of thinking about everything. And it tries so hard to pretend it's not. It tries so, feminist critical theory tries so hard to, put on a little show for you and pretend that they've gone so much deeper into things, but they haven't. Everything a feminist theorist does is to look at a work and say, is that fair to women? How can we use that for the feminist agenda? That's all they do. This is all a Marxist theorist does. This is all that any of them do. And they would just, oh, how dare you say that? But it's true. They've got nothing to show for it otherwise. And again, it's an example of the ideology, how ideology comes in, short circuits any intelligence, short circuits any smarts you have, any talent you have, and you just have to look at everything you have, and this has to be a tool to further this ideology, and this has to be a tool, and that has to be a tool. Let's just make everything further the ideology. It's, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but I wanted to give some actual examples there because it is just, it's pathetic. And it's, one of the things we see, you know, I would argue, and I'm not saying it's the only reason, but one of the reasons I think Trump won the first time, and one of the reasons why it's looking pretty good for him now, is because people are tired of being force-fed this narrative from the mainstream media, because the narrative is set up to further their agenda. And I wish in academia we saw more people rejecting this force-fed, you know, nonsense of these critical theories, feminist theory, so forth and so on, because it's stymied any intellectual endeavors. You know, it's absurd how, you know, I would like, why waste your time going to a literary academic convention or conference or whatever? All it's just gonna be a bunch of crap. It's gonna be a bunch of people, like a bunch of hippies, trying to talk about why the world should be like that. Okay, cool story. Now tell me about the literature, and don't tell me about how the literature can be used to or criticized, you know, for your agenda. I wish that would happen more. Anyway, got a couple of super chats at least. Let me get these here. My dear Sound Engraver, of course. Thank you so much, love. Said they put the cult in culture. Yeah. I got rolling on the topic, and I didn't even check into these chats. But yeah, that's when I was talking about the cult-like behavior. I like that. They put the cult in culture. It is true. It's very true. I think I saw Alec Purdue here. Yeah. Scholarship has succumbed to Antonio Gramsci. I know that name. Is this a... Hang on. Let me see. Oh, the Kingdom of Italy. Former deputy of the king. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry. Every time you drop a name, Alec Purdue, I immediately think it's some obscure anime reference or Godzilla reference. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, but yeah, I know. I get it. Okay, and I agree. Yeah. And you can see, like, you know, you can watch RJ's channel, the Fourth Age. He talks about this a lot and really goes into you know, the history of the decline of Western thought when it comes to any kind of academia. And it's true, you know, as soon as you got idiots like Jacques Derrida hit the scene, you know, all real intellectual pursuit just hit, you know, flew out the window. And it's just a bunch of Mad Hatters walking around trying to be politically correct. And it's absurd. This is why college, you know, as I've said before, college is not worth it. And some people are like, how dare you? And I should be a little more specific when I say that. I mean, academic study of the humanities isn't worth it. You know, obviously, if you want to be a doctor, college can still very much serve you. Or if you want to be an accountant, I imagine. I don't know. I haven't been in those fields. I mean, I'm sure the ideologues have seeped into every one of those, but still, I mean, you know, yes, college is useful. Go be a doctor, go be a businessman or whatever. But what I'm talking about is my theory or my experience in my specific field of the humanities, because even before I, you know, decided on literature to study, I mean, I loved history, I loved art, I loved mythology, and I was taking just tons of undergrad classes on all of those, more credits than I needed. And it's there in all of those fields. It's just a humanities wide nonsense. But anyway, let me see what the chat's saying here. Yeah, Mr. D-Man brainwashing theory. It really is what it is. You know, in the master's program, I was actually in two different master's programs because I had to transfer. I was moving at one point. Grad school really is a gatekeeper. Grad school is a gatekeeping structure set up. They need to make sure that you're thinking the right things, or they won't pass you on to where you could actually, you know, work in a college one day and actually, you know, work against our narrative that we try to beat into, you know, people's heads. Classes that I do teach a class or two that does sometimes bring in juniors or seniors, but most of the classes I tend to get, most of the classes that are needed for me to teach are going to be freshmen. They don't like that phrase anymore either. No, you call them first years. No, you're freshmen. Deal with it. Because you say, man, it's ridiculous. But no, most of the students I get are freshmen. And what I love about that is they haven't been through the brainwashing yet, occasionally when I'll teach, and sometimes they have, or sometimes the classes I'll teach, I'll get a sophomore or junior who's, who just had to retake the class or something, or never got around to taking it or whatever. And you can tell those who have been through the indoctrination. And I make a point in my class I don't tell them what to think. I have to tell them at the beginning of the class, look, my job is not to tell you what to think. As a writing teacher, in the classes where I'm just teaching them college level writing, I'm just here to help you better express what you think, better think it through yourself and better express it. I'm not here to try to aim you towards the right think, which every other professor is doing. I remember, I've told the story before, talking to another professor I shared an office with, and I was like, she was talking about this documentary that she shows them, and we watch King Corn, and we watch all this. And I said, well, don't you think though that you shouldn't really try to influence them? I mean, you should let them think for just that. And the woman was like, no, we need to make sure they're thinking the right things. And that is 100% the philosophy of higher academia, or especially any college, to be honest, definitely. See, my dear sound engraver here, feminists and analysts do not go hand in hand. That's true. Can't be a feminist and think you offer serious analysis. That's true. I mean, to be fair, any kind of ideology is going to short circuit that, but feminism has a special way of doing that. Daniel's Lozball says, Professor Geek, I think the copy I have of the Frankenstein novel is the 31 edition. And the manga version, oh cool, the manga version I have is based on the 18 edition. Honestly, I was surprised with how faithful the manga was. That's cool. I don't have a manga one. That'd be interesting to take a look at. You'll find different editions out there. Most of them will say in the introduction, there'll be a note on the text or something like that, especially if it's a critical edition. But I guess you might find like a Barnes and Noble classic or whatever that you can't quite tell. But you just go thumb through. A good way to tell, go thumb through and find the area where he starts talking about Elizabeth. He's telling the story of his childhood, and as soon as he introduces Elizabeth, if she's the child of his sister who passed away, if she's the child of his father's sister who passed away, then you've got the earlier version. If she's an orphan that her parents die and her mother finds her and they adopt, you have what I consider the better edition. And the reason I say it's a better edition isn't just because it's got something feminist hate in it. No, I do think it's it's a little less cringy, that she's an orphan that she gets married to and not his actual cousin. But thematically, it works so much better. The idea of Victor being controlled by fate. See, Mary Shelley was heavily influenced. And this is something the feminist theorists also don't like. Heavily influenced by Percy. I mean, Victor Frankenstein is based on Percy Shelley in a lot of ways. There's a little bit of Lord Byron in him. And in a lot of ways, it's her working out her guilt of her complicity with Shelley, because they just, they used up people left and right, particularly Shelley did in their life, and brought all kinds of pain in their aesthetic, romantic mission to bring revolution to the world or whatever nonsense they were doing, And feminist theorists don't like that. They want to raise up Mary Shelley as their totem, look, a woman author, wrote one of the most influential, blah, 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 and any way that Percy might have had an influence on the work, they want to distance themselves from. No, we'll do the earliest edition because then Percy might not have been able to suggest so many edits and so forth. But those edits that are made make it a better book, make it a tighter book thematically. It makes sense that Victor would be, would think anyway that he's ruled by fate. And also in that blurb that I had there where he's talking about, he's first of all, it's Victor's perspective. It's not a third person omniscient narrator dealing out truth of the universe. No, it's a character giving account of their life. So it's narrative perspective. So you're free to disagree with that or find it suspect or whatever, anything they say. And then he's talking about when he was a child. And he even says, as a child with childlike seriousness, I misinterpreted my mother. I mean, that's implied. He says he took her literally when she said, I brought a gift for you. So as a child, he thinks of her as his, and what does he say? Not his to dominate, although Percy certainly dominated his sisters in some pretty sadistic ways. But in that blurb anyway, it's mine to protect, to love, to cherish. Oh, that sounds too much like a traditional marriage vow. It's just, feminists are adorable. They really are adorable. And I purposely say that in a way that'll just grind their little gears, but it's true. They're precious. They don't have any real thought, any real intelligent thing to say because they're so given over to an ideology. And I say specifically feminists. I'm not talking about somebody, talking about a woman's right or something like that. You can talk about a specific issue, sure, but once you give yourself over to that ideology, you don't have an intelligent thing to say at all. Andre Hernandez, don't mess with me. I don't know who might be from Alabama, so I don't want to make any jokes there. It is a sweet song, though. What else was I gonna? I saw a chat here. Oh yeah, they hate the word freshman sounding graver. You're not even supposed to use that. If I talk about the different years, I'm supposed to say first year, second year, third year, and fourth year, which is dumb, and I'm not going to do. Dr. Y, thank you so much for the super chat there. Appreciate it. Feminists are precious. Professor Geek 2024. I used to say that to my my fellow students in that Masters in English program because I couldn't stand how they were just all drinking the Kool-Aid. Whatever the professor said, they were 100% with the ideology. And I said something one time because there was going to be a feminist theory class offered, and I was like, I am not taking that. And somebody said, oh, yeah, I forgot. You hate feminists. I said, I don't hate feminists. I think feminists are adorable. You'd imagine how well that went over. Mr. D-Man, you see all the weirdos in Hyde Park? Yeah, I forgot where you're from. Yeah, try to avoid them as much as possible. Every country, every city has them. My precious. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere for Gollum. Andre says, Prof, do you think SGWs can be redeemed? I mean, I think some are waking up and are moving away from the ideology. Oh, yeah. I mean, an ideology, it's hard. It's hard work to break from an ideology because you've given over 100% of your identity to it. Think about people actually breaking from a real cult, coming out of an actual cult. I don't just mean a religion. I mean an actual cult. Think of people coming out of an actual cult. They've been brainwashed into not even being able to conceive of themselves or anything they might do outside of that belief system. And this is what ideologies do. And again, it has nothing to do with, vote for this party or that party. You can, have whatever scale of politics you want on the spectrum, but when you're an ideologue, when you've given yourself to an ideology, you can't even fathom, So it can be done, it can be done. It's very, very hard to do. Very few people who are given to an ideology are ever going to do it. You see a lot of them are waking up. I mean, on the one hand, I don't know what you're talking about there, Andre, but I know on the one hand, we do see a lot of Hollywood stars, at least toning it down a little bit. I guess maybe some are saying the other thing. It's infuriating to me as a fan of a lot of the work of a lot of these celebrities. Like, I'll give you an example. Martin Short. I love Martin Short's work. He has done some of my favorite, I don't know my favorite movies, but he's just done some amazing movies that I dearly love. I loved his work on SCTV. I loved him on Saturday Night Live. Ed Grimley's one of the best fictional characters. I love it. Three Amigos, Three Fugitives. I mean, he's just been in so many great things. Inner Space, Martin Short's just the man. I mean, he's just done so many great things. And I used to watch, sometimes I'll still watch them if they pop up in my feed, GQ, the GQ magazine. They have a YouTube channel, and they've got this series that they do. I don't really read magazines or whatever, but I just saw this series that would interest me. And they'll take different actors, or I don't think GQ does actresses. I think like a sister magazine does actresses. But they'll take, certain actors or whatever, and they'll sit them down and they'll say, so-and-so responds to like 5 or 7 of their most iconic films, so there's a really cool one they did with Kurt Russell. Some actors, and then I saw one on Martin Short. So I thought, great, let me see, because it's the actor talking a little bit about how they got that role that you love so much, or their thoughts on making the movie, or why that character resonates so much with people and so forth. And I thought, great, cool, I'll watch Martin Short's. And I'm under no delusion that any of these celebrities I'm watching are even in any way, sharing my politics. Obviously, they're celebrities. 99.99% of them are going to be raging liberals. But the ideologues and the Trump derangement syndrome just hit so hard. And this interview with Martin Short was, I think it was towards the end of Trump's presidential term, his first presidential term there. And he kept making references. You can look it up. You can look up GQ Martin Short, interview or whatever. You'll find the video I'm talking about. No one's asking him about Trump. No one. Trump isn't even remotely the topic of this interview. We're just asking him about the roles that he had, this and that. And he keeps finding little ways to make a Trump joke. And the person that he's interviewing is like over here. So his line of sight is over here. And every time he thinks of a little way he can insult Trump, he turns to the camera and does his little grin. And after like the third time, it's like, something's wrong with you, man. Something's wrong with you. The jokes you're making aren't even all that funny. I mean, you're better than that. You can if you really wanted to make an insulting joke about Trump, you could. But it's the ideology ruling him. I mean, it was just silly things. Like he's talking about a character, and he thinks, I think what's funny about this character is, he's so incompetent, but he's in charge. We don't know anything about that, do we? And it's just like, what? Come on. I think David Stewart with The Daily Show created a whole career during the Bush years out of this kind of nonsense, this sort of derangement syndrome, which we've seen only just ramped up, to the nth degree, during the Trump years. It's man, it's just insane. Anyway, let's see what else is going on here. Check out my time here. Where's my time? Okay, I got about 10 minutes or so left to chat. I just started to feel the energy start to plummet just a little bit. I had lower energy tonight than I usually do. I was telling Sound Engraver, we go to mass before, on Saturday nights, and I come home, grab a nap, and, I do my stream here. And I serve as a lector at mass, someone who reads the daily readings and the announcements and stuff like that. And tonight, our pastor's away on his yearly vacation, the sabbatical they have to take, to take care of themselves and whatnot. So we have this, this guest priest coming in to do mass. And they're actually doing a little construction in our parish where they're changing, the sacristy used to be at the back of the sanctuary. Now they're moving it to the front. So they've changed, and they're like making the old sacristy like the new confessional now. So they're really changing it up. And all of the light switches for the sanctuary used to be in that old sacristy. Well, they've taken all of them out now. And they've moved all the switches up front to this new sacristy is going to be over here off the side of the stage, off the side of the altar. So the lights were off when I went in, and it's the vigil mass. So if I'm the lector, I'm the only one up there, other than the altar boys, who's turning things on, turning the sound system on and whatnot. And I can't figure out how to get the lights on over the main seating area. And I'm playing with it a little bit, and you see these this older guy in the audience, a couple of the older people in the audience, just like I don't know if they want to be helpful or if they just see me, some little book sense idiot who doesn't have the common sense to know how things should be fixed, and all they want to do is they tell me it's back there. I know, sir, but they moved it recently. I saw it back there. I know, sir, but they moved it recently. You need to go ask so and so will get you the key. So I'm doing all these things, trying to make people happy, trying to cover all the bases I can just to make sure the lights are on in there. And I sit back down with Sound Engraver, and I'm sitting like right up there at the front because I lecture there, and I see like 2 or 3 of the older guys, for whatever reason, like walk up there, and it was almost like, we need to figure this thing out, and they're going to come take care of it or whatever. And then the altar boys tell them the same thing that I figured out with them, which is the switch doesn't work. So they all just kind of walk out. It's just like, come on, man. Come on. I know I have zero mechanical capabilities. I'm not a handyman. I'm a cognitive person. I talk about literature all day long, but I'm not going to be able to run some electrical or anything. But come on. I found out the simple fact that the light switch doesn't work. Can you just trust me on that? So, and that kind of thing is such a little thing But if you have social anxiety disorder like I do, that plays around in your head, and you're like, this and that. So I don't know. I think that I'm not traumatized by it or anything. I'm ready to have a wonderful weekend, but I think that brought my energy down a little bit, like in terms of my reserves of energy. Don't have quite as much as I did as usual when we start a stream. Eldritch fan, good to see you there. Is that Eldritch fan's comment, or is that Eldritch fan? Say on the lighter side, I'm reading the Lensman books. Fun look into the origin of Jedi and Green Lanterns, but they're definitely not Jedi. Bunch of no-nonsense jocks. The Lensman books. Do I know that? That doesn't ring a bell to me. John Stewart is who did I say? Did I say a different Stewart? Did I say Jimmy Stewart? I hope it didn't. John Stewart's who I meant, the Daily Show guy. Eldritch fan, you're talking about the Lensman capture a bad guy. I don't hesitate. I've never heard of the Lensman books. Sounds interesting though. Sounds like a cool premise. First, I thought I read it wrong. I thought you were talking about Len Wein, like Len Wein's comic books. I was like, those are some good stuff. Plus size says, I know I sound like a broken record, but we know Disney has led all of this agenda-filled entertainment. True. They use the popular characters to preach their agenda, not entertain. And Disney's the big offender that we can all look at because they own so much of it now. But it's not just them. It's Hollywood in general. Warner Brothers, there are ideologues in Warner Brothers that want to preach certainly as well. But like, again, Warner Brothers is just so idiotic in terms of like the executives making the decisions. The people that they give these properties to, and like, have you guys ever met a fan? Have you ever talked to anybody who may or may not want to go see one of these movies? I mean, they're just so distant and detached from any kind of reason why these characters resonate with people and whatnot. And it's just a fascinating, mind-boggling, infuriating stupidity that they have, which is its own thing next to Disney's, militant ideologies. Yeah, anyway. Okay, Eldritch fan said, Doc Smith invented the Lensman. A higher order of beings give worthy men lenses that give them psionic powers and make them guardians of the galaxy. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. Looks like a pretty interesting premise. Yeah, Aragon. That is on my that's on my radar somewhere there to check out at one point. I actually heard a really cool interview with the creators of Aragon, the books, because they're Catholics, I believe, because it was on a Catholic radio show, and it's like that. If I'm remembering correctly, if that's the right one, if I'm not mistaking that or mixing it up with somebody else, I don't know. Yeah. Let's see here. Studio 96. Good to see you there. What did you say? Oh, you said also she's so annoying. I don't know who you're talking about, but now the Jack Black thing here. I see some people talking about Jack Black. I don't know the full story on this. The only Jack Black story I heard, and I was asking Sound Engraver, I was like, is there more to this? Do you know more? And I heard about the other guy in Tenacious D at the concert. I think he's given his partner in Tenacious D like a birthday cake, and the Tenacious D's like, making a wish or whatever, and he says, I wish that, they wouldn't miss Trump next time or something like that. Horrible, right? Horrible. But the story I heard, or at least the extent of the story that I heard, is that Jack Black then like canceled his Tenacious D tour, like flat out, we're not doing that. So I keep hearing people like blaming Jack Black about something, but that story alone, I don't see what Jack Black did. Is there more to it? Is there something I just don't know? There very well could be, because I just don't follow news. And I love it. I love it like that. I love not following and knowing everything. And I use YouTube a lot, but it's always for educational purposes. Like I watched a really cool documentary on the French Revolution the other day, and I'll look up nostalgic videos or religious or just educational stuff. I could care less about looking at their latest news. But if something interesting happens or whatever, I want to know about it. So I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Okay, so yeah, the Aragon guy is who I was thinking of. And the Lensman books are from 1950. That's pretty cool. Like a good, I really like Atomic Age punk. Atomic Age punk, Atomic punk. That's what I meant. Atomic Age sci-fi, commonly referred to as atomic punk. I really like that kind of style, that feel. That's where the original Star Trek came out of that. But the old Ray Bradbury stuff, the old pulp science fiction, the original Buck Rogers stories and whatnot. That's really cool stuff. I like that. Okay, so AL's filling me in. Jack Black was blamed for not calling out Kyle immediately after he made that wish. Oh, okay. He said an awkward thank you. Okay. So maybe that's the issue. I don't know. I didn't see the clip or anything. Yeah, I don't know. That's terrible for someone to say that, and it should be denounced right away, As long as Jack Black did the right thing afterwards, I don't know if I can be so mad at him in the moment, because it could just kind of take you out of nowhere, like, dude, shut up. And I can imagine just kind of wanting to let's just gloss over that and go quickly or whatever. I don't know, just from a showman's perspective or something. I don't know. It's not the right thing to do, but I could sympathize with that a little bit more. I was hearing little things, or the way it was being presented to me, I was thinking it was like Jack Black had said something like that or wrote something like that. And I was like, well, screw that guy. I'm done watching his movies, quite personally. But from what it did there, I'm like, okay, he did the right thing in the end. Okay. Even if it was maybe from pressure or whatever, or from his PR people or whatever, I don't know. But again, I haven't seen the clip. Maybe I've got a wrong understanding of it. I'm not trying to come down on one side of it or another. I'm just telling you my real-time reactions to the information as it's being given to me. So anyway, I'll have to look into it more. All right. Close to wrapping up here, but just checking in with anything else anybody said. Make sure I don't miss anything. Oh, yeah. Mr. D-Man, you pointed out the last comment there. Imagine if some country singer made a joke about Joe Biden almost dying. You wouldn't hear the end of it from the leftists. Oh, you're 100% right. In the last week's stream, I said, imagine if this had happened to Obama. But yeah, just talk about Biden, or anybody with a D next to their name instead of an R. The media would be all over it. The media would be calling for their heads and so forth. But the media doesn't care. You remember when Kathy Griffith did her horrible picture with a beheaded Trump and everything? The media was just like, we'll cover that. The media doesn't care. The media is 100% biased. It is. I'll just end with this. I'll end with the sentiment that I mentioned last week. Oh, okay. Sonic Graver just came in, poked her head in as I'm saying I'm going to wrap up with this. And she goes, "Don't forget my stream." So I have to mention, Sound Engraver has a stream tomorrow afternoon. Usually it's 5:45ish. I don't know exactly what time she has it set up, but you can go to her channel, Sound Engraver, and find it there and check it out. She's got a stream there. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the media. I would be so ashamed to tell anybody I worked in news media. Newspaper, local news, whatever. I'd just be ashamed of it. I'm not saying that everyone has to be ashamed or there isn't room. Obviously, hey, especially on a local level, you need the local news person. But the ideologies have just so seeped in that gone are the days of the free media. It's the tool of our democracy. It's so precious to us. No, it's not a free media. It's a brainwashed media, which, whether through an organizational way or not, they are 100% lockstep in an ideology, and they're not there to give you information. They're there to try to make you think a certain way. And that's not media. That's not a free news media at all. And, it's coincided with today when we have the technology to kind of be our own media to a certain degree. And that just wrinkles their, but you get fake news and you don't know really what to believe, what we tell you to believe. It's just whatever. There are some independent news sources out there, and it's hard to find them, though. It's hard to find them, ones that you can trust, but I'm sure they're out there. So yes, Sound Engraver said her stream is posted. So Go check her out. Tomorrow she'll be talking about some really cool topics too. She was telling me about. And a super chat to wrap up the night from Nathaniel's Lowsball. Thank you, sir. Said, if it's any consolation, I'd love to hear you more in depth with The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, along with Frankenstein and Dracula this fall. Thank you, Nathaniel's Lowsball. Thank you. I did this. I actually got a Dracula one too. I do I like to walk, so many miles a day when it's a little cooler. And I did these like pacer walking challenges that you can do if you put in your miles or whatever. They send you little virtual check-ins, like you're walking I did the Dracula's Road, like we're walking, through Transylvania up to the Dracula's castle and stuff, and they send you a little medal if you achieve it and stuff. It's a really cool little check-ins too. And the medals are really nicely done. You got the little multiple scenes and stuff. Nice hard, metal. But the Sleepy Hollow one was walking the Sleepy Hollow Trail, walking from Washington Irving's home all the way up to actual Sleepy Hollow, and where they actually hold the Halloween festivities and everything. It was pretty cool. I think that comes off in the hologram. But yeah, I am all about talking about some Legends of Sleepy Hollow. We will have to do that. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up now. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight. Very much appreciate it. Check out Sound Engraver tomorrow. And hope you guys have a good week. I will be back next week, and we will be doing some more content through and through. I'll be delving into these book studies of Frankenstein stuff. That's coming, so keep an eye out. But until next time, thanks for watching, and keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love and Halloween stories you love.